How are you going to stop self-sabotaging? How are we going to stop self-sabotaging ourselves together? We've got to stop this self-sabotage. What causes self-sabotage? I suppose it must be a latent, unexpressed, unexamined, unrealized belief that you're not good enough and that you're not worthy of success, whether that's in the field of relationship, education, personal development, profession. And self-sabotage in my own life, because let me tell you, I've been a self-saboteur master. These are my experiences of self-sabotage. I've had the same pattern my whole life when I think about it. There was times where I was really, really popular at school, then so unpopular they'd had to just throw me right out of the school. It's happened just several times in my professional life as well, like sort of chaos and sort of excitement, and then madness and destruction. Now I think what brings it about in me is a lack of trust in people and a lack of belief in myself. The reason that I'm an ardent supporter and evangelist for the 12-step technique of self-awakening is that it's a program for living. People say, I don't want a program, but we already have a program. If you're experiencing a lot of self-sabotage, that will be coming from your embedded programming, the programming of your family, the programming of your class and gender and sex and race and or economic background. All of this programming realizes itself through us. Now, let's say if you self-sabotage in a relationship, that could be through being unfaithful or criticizing, or it could be from like getting too clingy too quickly, all of that kind of stuff. I would say in the area of relationship, it's about projection and attachment to an external, in this case, person, instead of a kind of remedying of the inner malady. What I mean to say is this self-sabotage must be that I don't like myself, I don't think I'm worthy of success. If I don't address that, then I will develop a pattern of self-sabotage in the world of relationships or in the world of my work. How I stop self-sabotage is these very, very clear techniques. One, I really watch my thinking. Like I try not to forget that I am not my thinking. Two, I surround myself with people that are further down the spiritual path than me. I find mentors and I listen to them. For example, what about Michael Beckwith from the Agape Church, who said, you have to break your vow to mediocrity. That's good, isn't it? Like if you think about it, how I experience my own mediocrity is like, say if I'm about to be critical or overly dependent on my wife, I sort of feel it rise up. I think, this is part of your mediocrity to do this. See if you can let go of it. Or if that's where I suppose I have problems, being critical and blaming. That's an area where I venture towards self-sabotage because I foul the arena of my life. I foul the environment of my life. Sorry about the use of the word foul there. It's a bit disgusting, isn't it? But what I mean to say is, like, we live in these relationships, and if I don't treat people properly and correctly, then it's, it all comes back at us. Stuff that we used to think of as spiritual is kind of can be seen as pretty rational. Kindness and love, forget the concept of karma. You're just creating surfaces around yourself that are bearing the sheen of your adulation. The way to stop self-sabotage is to address what's behind it. Something in you is trying to communicate with you. Something is not being heard, some inner voice. If you address the self-esteem issues, the purpose issues, the behavioral and relationship issues, firstly with yourself, with other experts, sometimes in support groups, and with a declared objective and a willingness to bear witness to yourself, to stay awake and stay aware when those behaviours fire up. I still have all of the patterns that I've always had, the patterns of self-destruction, the patterns of self-obsession, the patterns of over-reliance on others. But now, because I've been given and taught a lot of spiritual techniques, when the old engine fires up, I can sort of see it, like, oh, I'm about to do that thing. In the past, I used to not see it. I used to sort of feel it. I used to feel the energy rise up in me of like, oh, I'm going to tell someone to f off or something mad or cause a load of chaos. Then I'd sort of enjoy yielding to it, like enjoy the sort of feeling of being flooded by madness. And then it would only be, I'd sort of come round like about 24 hours later and go, oh no, shit, I've ruined that job. Oh, bollocks. I remember walking out of a photo shoot once for some sort of cool magazine in New York. It was so cool, I can't even remember it. But I'm not even being sarcastic. It was too cool to stay in my mind. there was a lot of, I don't know, everyone was very thin. Anyway, like, I was doing this photo shoot. I goes, I want to leave by 5. In fact, I'm giving myself a 5 p.m. cut-off, right? It was in the meatpacking district of New York. That was, if it's not cool now, it was cool then. And like, like, everyone was like, no, we need longer than that to shoot these multiple setups. I was doing the cover of this magazine or whatever. And I just went, I ain't doing it, I'm going. And I remember the atmosphere of everyone I work with and all the people on the shoot, the sort of feelings of like, sort of the bad taste and sort of dismay and sort of disappointment. But I'm going to try not to do things like that anymore. I was self-sabotaging, because this is what I thought. I was like, if they really want me on that magazine, they'll just do whatever I want. And they just went, no, forget it then, man. And then I just wasn't in that magazine. But look, there are more important things to life than being in magazines. Almost everything in life is more important than being in magazines. But the fact is that I didn't, this was 10 years ago, but I didn't like know how to behave then. Nowadays, I think I would either, well, probably I wouldn't go to the shoot in the first place, wouldn't agree to do it. But once you have agreed to do it, well, I guess you've got to behave differently. So self-sabotage, watch your patterns, find mentors, develop a program. These are just some of the things you can do to change you. Don't see the self-sabotage as a negative thing. See it as an inner voice waiting to be heard. There is wisdom in this information.